Hi there, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Happy almost spring. Happy Wednesday.
Hi, everyone.
You've got two cats from People Made with you today.
Exactly that. Cat squared joining. Brilliant. We'll wait a couple more minutes. I can see a few joining.
I always love these events. I love that they're always a bit different. This one is half-hour webinar, but then we do these culture clubs and that are a bit more co-create with our audience. So TBD and on our next one for that.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll try and mix it up. Some webinars and then some sort of culture clubs where we have a bit more of a discussion. But yeah, we're conscious of time and everyone's super busy. So definitely wanted to land a few key themes and then, yeah, let you get back to your day. I think we'll give it one more minute and then we will get started so that we make the most of the half hour we've got.
I'm looking out at a field of mushy melting snow.
Oh wow, is that still with you, Kat? Brilliant. Okay, so I reckon we'll get started and then I'm sure there'll be a few more joining along the way. So thank you so much for joining us. We were just saying and joking that you've got two cats with you today, and no doubt you've seen a few emails from me about the invite. So I'm business director here at People Made, and yeah, today is a quick 30-minute rundown of what trends to prioritise this year. And we'll talk you through. We'll have a bit of chance for Q&A at the end. So I'll pass you over to Kat to talk to you a little bit about People Made.
Thanks, Kat. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here. Um, I'm the other Kat, Kat Egan. I'm based in New York. Happy Wednesday. Happy almost spring for those of us on the West Coast. It's been eagerly awaited. Just wanted to give you a quick background. I know some of you are very familiar with us, but we are People Made. We are a diverse global team of experts with rich backgrounds and capabilities. And what unites all of that is a people first philosophy. So we bring all of our experience into every single project and we tailor our approach to meet your brand and your people exactly where you are today and your vision for the future. We close the gap. We want to make sure there's this connective tissue between the brand promise and the employee experience. What that ensures is that what the company stands for externally is deeply felt and delivered internally. We don't see brand and culture as separate tracks. They're an integrated foundation that shapes both the customer and the employee experience. So every touch point matters to us. We deeply listen. We love seeing what sparks. And when all of that alignment starts to click, that's when we feel like the magic happens. We love these events. Like we said, it's a chance to share what we're exploring and digging into and what's surfacing. So please plan for a short Q&A at the end and jot down any questions you might have. And here we go.
Thanks, Kat. And I think you've beautifully described this sort of wheel of how we see everything holistically. So both from that experience felt on the inside, right through to how it's delivered on the outside, and within the sort of brand world, as well as how that's delivered on the culture side of things. We really connect the dots for all of these, even if we're working in one service area, which leads nicely into our four service areas. So I won't spend any time on this, but just to say four areas that we work within, whether that's brand right through to how it's delivered through your culture, your employee value proposition, and then, of course, on service experience. And then this is a bit of a show off slide, but just to say, we're super fortunate to have worked with lots of credible global businesses. And that's almost given us the inspiration today for how we start to look at what's happening in the US and with particular focus in this market, and actually how that then perhaps impacts themes and topics for the rest of the year. So, with that, I'll hand over to Elle.
Thanks, Kat. And hi, everyone. I'm Elle. I'm Deputy Head of Strategy here at People Made. And yeah, really excited to take you through our 5 trends for 2025. And just a bit of scene setting. And it's occurred to us thinking about this year that the US workplace is at a bit of a crossroads, and it feels like there's a few shifts going on sort of in tandem at the same time when we're thinking about rapid technological advancements, widening generational differences, political and economic changes, all of which are really impacting employee expectations. And then in return, employers need to really start to rethink how to attract and engage and retain talent. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to run you through our top 5 trends that we think are really going to define success for US businesses in 2025. And really importantly, what leaders need to do now to stay ahead. Okay, so if we start with the first one, it's quite a dramatic title, but we've called this one The Great Detachment, and the need to really rebuild workplace connection. So where this idea has come from is that we saw that across the US, employee engagement is at an 11-year low, and 79% of workers said that they feel detached from their jobs. And that was from a survey run last October, so quite recent data. And some of the top concerns that were flagged there was feelings of loneliness and isolation, a lack of career growth, compensation, feeling undervalued, quite a lot of things that were feeding into that detachment. And then once you layer on the broader context of a workforce that's facing economic uncertainty, inflation, and a cooling job market, all of that's making employees feel a bit stuck rather than inspired, which isn't good. And then at the same time, perceptions of employer care and the care that they have for employees, that's dropped to a pre-pandemic level and really start to fuel concerns around burnout and disengagement. Many employees said that they feel frustrated about companies failing to deliver on their wellbeing promises and seeing a lot of kind of empty promises or care washing, as they're calling it, pretending to care, but actually not delivering on anything tangible and real. And then the return to office mandates are perceived as control mechanisms rather than productivity boosters. 77% of employees reported that. So there's a lot of suspicion and disengagement really that is of course impacting productivity ultimately and ability for a business to succeed. Don't worry though, there are some solutions that we can see. And we think that more than ever, it's really crucial to start to invest in building a strong culture and really starting to nurture connections and to re-engage and re-inspire people. Feeling connected, we think, is the key to all of this, and finding the ways to do that in a meaningful way to improve that satisfaction for employees overall. So how can we do that? I think there's 4 things really that we've pulled out here. The first one is identifying and building in those moments and rituals for the chance to engage and inspire your people. And I think the key there is finding the right moments, not trying to do every moment. It's picking those battles and building in really sort of meaningful and inspirational rituals into those. And then secondly is this is the opportunity to really respond to employee wellbeing concerns and deliver tangible and meaningful wellbeing support. Third one is creating those intentional moments for in-person collaboration. So I think what we're seeing here is that companies that succeed are thinking about quality time together in person rather than quantity. So it's not about presenteeism, having everyone there all the time. It's having those really quality moments to come together, to collaborate and enjoy the benefits of really being together. And then final one in there is really think about your physical space, the office environment that you're creating, and making sure that you're meeting the different needs of your employees. For example, I've been seeing quite a few offices that have been created with neurodivergent needs in mind. Think about the lighting, the sound, all of that kind of stuff, to really make sure that it's a place that people want to be and where you can get the best out of people ultimately. So that's number one. Number two, we couldn't get too far without talking about AI. And it's this shift that we want to go through from AI fear, which is what we're seeing at the moment, and shifting that into AI fluency and looking at that through a culture lens. So we know AI is here, and we know that the US leads global AI investment, and recent policy shifts that are lifting AI regulations could mean that we start to see a real acceleration of AI adoption across businesses. Yet 80% of employees say that they aren't ready for AI. So this challenge here, it's not just a technological one, it's cultural. Companies have to ensure that the AI adoption is empowering employees rather than alienating them, bringing people along that journey so that they're excited and equipped for that change. And as well as employees feeling underskilled, I think a lot of employees are fearing job displacement, and that's adding to this growing resistance to AI. And the growing gap between the executive ambitions within a business and the employee AI readiness. So clearly there's a gap here between the need to adapt and people's readiness for it. So again, thinking about the solutions here. First one, it's pretty straightforward, but L&D has to play a really big part here. We're recommending building L&D programs into your sort of content to really upskill through structured and hands-on training. Second one is building employee readiness and confidence by creating these like safe environments for people to have a go, try things out, and build up their confidence with new tools and capabilities. I think this is really important for psychological safety as well. It's making sure that people can try things out without that fear of failure, and we know what an important unlock of psychological safety is. So that safe environment one is a really key one there. The third one is finding the right AI and human mix. So using your culture and values as a compass here is a really important one because it starts to open up the conversations of where and how AI should be integrated into your workplace, and really engaging employees at all levels to have the conversation, to air their worries and work through it together, and really start to see where AI can add value and where the human touch is indispensable. And then the final one is just around the change transformation as you roll out your tech, and making sure that, again, you bring everyone along that journey and bear in mind the different need states and where people are at in their journey with AI. So considering both early adopters as well as those who are more reluctant to change. Number 3 is about feedback and the opportunity it offers to really fuel business performance. And we're seeing this as we're going as far as saying it's the new growth imperative. Feedback is no longer just a performance tool. It's actually a really critical component of employee engagement. We're seeing this with lots of clients that we work with in the US, and it really fuels retention and business success. And with US workplaces shifting, building in that culture of feedback will really help companies to adapt and maintain transparency to keep employees engaged. And we know that transparency is super important to people. It's also important because the middle management layer is shrinking across many US companies. So providing consistent and meaningful feedback starts to become more challenging without that layer there to deliver it. We would actually go as far as to say that feedback is the new workplace currency. So employees no longer stay in roles where they feel stagnant or unheard. 63% of Gen Z and 50% of millennials will leave a job if they don't receive frequent and meaningful feedback. So it's quite a serious issue potentially here. We know that the median job tenure for US workers dropped in 2024 to the lowest point since 2002. And we know that people who do receive regular feedback are 3 times more engaged and 5 times more likely to recommend their place of work. So it's having a big impact on the ability to retain talent. What is the solution? So, number one, I think, is really moving away from this mindset of static annual reviews that happen once a year, and that's your kind of golden moment in the calendar to offer some feedback. It just doesn't work that way anymore. What's really key is having that real-time, actionable, and growth-focused feedback on a regular basis to really support that continuous conversation and continuous coaching. Managers play a really key role here. So equipping them with the right skills and training and support to deliver that meaningful and impactful feedback is what's needed to have that ripple effect across the organisation. And I think as well, it has to be about a two-way conversation. So encouraging that with employees and empowering them to offer their feedback too is super important as well to build managerial skills. And then finally, it's really important to provide the platforms and data gathering opportunities to capture and track that feedback. So making sure you've got the mechanisms in place to make it happen. The outcome here we think could be really huge because it goes beyond sort of individual people's development. It also starts to shift towards that culture of a growth mindset. Because you're essentially creating a place where curiosity thrives and where challenges become an opportunity to learn. And that's what helps businesses grow. Number 4 of 5. So our fourth one is about this growing need for employee value propositions, or EVPs, to be driven by your company values. And this idea has come from what we're seeing with the US workforce, and it's continuing to evolve, and values aren't just a competitive advantage, it's a really fundamental requirement for organisations aiming to attract and engage and retain their top talent. The implementation of Project 2025 is reshaping workplace policies, and that's bringing significant changes for everyone. And employees are going to be looking to their employers to see how they're responding to altering labour laws, union protections, and employment regulations. 87% of US workers consider it important to work for companies that align with their personal values. So it really shows that there is this necessity for organisations to clearly articulate and embody their core principles. And 74% of US employees actually said that they take a pay cut to work at a company with a strong mission and values. So it's something that people really care about. Within all of this, it's very clear that it's authentically aligning your organisational practices with your values that's going to be key as well, to really enable you to build resilient and motivated, loyal teams who are prepared to navigate the challenges of 2025 and beyond. We know that employees who find passion and purpose in their work are 300% more likely to remain with their organisation. So it does make a big difference. What can we do about it? You might ask. Well, we've got some solutions here. The first one is to build an EVP that's authentic to who you are and to really make it uniquely you. So something that's isn't something that anyone else could say, but that's really going to help you express what you're all about within the talent market. And ensuring that EVP is a lived experience by reflecting your company values and leadership behaviours, your policies, your workplace culture, as well as where you're going as a business and any strategic goals that you might have. For global EVPs, this need for flexibility is really important because whilst your core values should remain consistent and constant across the business globally, your EVP messaging needs to be tailored to different markets and workforce expectations. So that flexibility within the framework is really key. And then the final one on the role of leaders is just making sure that you're engaging your leaders and ensuring that they play an active role in championing your EVP and the values that sit within that to really set an example for others. One more, number 5 of our trends, is about employer brand. and how important it is to decode that reputation, because tracking perception of your employer brand really does matter. And what we're seeing is that employer brand perception is now a business critical metric. So companies that fail to track and refine their reputation risk losing top talent. And 75% of job seekers research employer reputation before applying. So it's essentially your first chance to make an impression. And we all know how important a first impression is. So yeah, making sure that you're making the right impression is really key. We are seeing that the US workforce is hugely multi-generational. It's made up of 4 active generations with distinct drivers, ways of working, and communication preferences. Tracking sentiment helps employers understand what resonates with each demographic, allowing them to tailor recruitment messaging, benefits, and workplace culture to meet diverse expectations. Tracking employer brand sentiment helps companies understand workforce gaps as well. So it can ensure that they're attracting and retaining employees with critical skills as industries evolve. We think this is really interesting when you think about the fact that there's 3.8 million unfilled jobs in the US due to skills mismatches. So understanding what drives employee satisfaction and retention is key to keep them in the business, as well as what newer, younger talent that's coming up through that talent pipeline and might be looking for those roles in the future, understanding what they need to. And final one on employer brand is that it really does boost resilience in uncertain times as well. And we've got some great data points on this. We've seen that organisations with a well-defined employer brand see 50% lower turnover and stronger employee trust. That's employee turnover. And tracking sentiment allows companies to quickly respond to shifts in employee needs and external factors. And it really just prevents that disengagement and attrition. So our solution here is to use sentiment studies and employee insights to refine your EVP and engagement strategies. And then looking at how you can leverage your employer brand data to really align with workforce expectations across generations. So looking at the data and then using that to inform the right messaging and content to resonate. And final one is making sure that you invest in employer brand storytelling and then really embed it into your employee experience so that it's a lived reality as well as a promise that you make on the outside. We know that candidates and employees want proof, not just promises. So yeah, that's a really important one to think about as well. And you can measure all of that as well. So those are our top 5 employer trends for 2025. Perhaps some or all of these resonate with you and what you're seeing in your businesses. Hopefully there's some solutions and ideas in there that could be useful to consider for success in 2025. Kat, have I missed anything or should we move on to questions?
No, brilliant. I think we should open it up and see if there's any Q&As. Oh. Okay, there is one. Regarding the values and experience in EVP, how do you find that right balance between consistency and localization in large organizations?
Oh, that's a good one. I think this is where if you've got the values and culture as your compass, that's the commonalities, your sort of red thread that runs through the business. And when we work with large organisations, we'll speak to different regions and different roles and understand all their differences so that we can respect those as well, but also look to find those commonalities and articulate that within the EVP so that you've got this umbrella term, but then you also understand what parts of the EVP you might want to dial up or dial down, depending on the different market or talent segment that you might be speaking to. So yeah, getting that balance right, it can be done. It's just making sure you've got the right toolkit of parts and you're all clear on what that red thread is, the compass that's guiding you, in order to then flex and adapt to who you're speaking to and to make sure that you're relevant and authentic and distinctive in local marketplaces as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. Pause for a beat.
I have a question that comes up frequently when we're talking to clients. How do we make sure that the voices of the younger, less experienced, sort of newer, maybe not managers, not middle managers, but the feet on the ground teams truly get heard? And I know that's so important for these themes that are coming up around curiosity and culture, but how do we not make assumptions based on what leadership is saying?
Yeah, I think this is where the research design becomes really important to make sure that you are speaking to those more junior colleagues, younger generations. And that's where, I mean, we use lots of different research methods, depending on the type of business that they're in. But if it's something like a virtual workshop, for example, and you're using a whiteboarding tool, it's a lot easier then for less confident people to sort of write responses in, if they don't feel confident enough to speak amongst more senior leaders. Or we might use different channels like reaching them on their mobile with a like little survey or something so that we're capturing them that way. But yeah, it's all in the research design and really guiding and helping our clients make sure that they're getting that representative sample of insight.
Great question, Kat.
It comes up every time we talk to clients.
I'll just check. Is there any other questions before we close? Okay. I think that's it.
We either covered it all or we have a shy group.
Yeah. I hope it's the former.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining, everyone. And just a reminder, if there's any themes or topics that we've touched on and you'd like to hear more, or perhaps you'd even just like to reflect and play back some ideas that you've got for the coming year and what your priorities are, we'd love to hear from you. So I'll send everybody who's joined a copy of the presentation we've taken you through, and then feel free to share with colleagues and do keep in touch with us.